Welcome to Infused Eats, the cooking show where everything's infused, especially me. Today, we're making watermelon smoothie cocktails. This episode is brought to you by the Mighty Fast Herbal Infuser. You can save money with the code RuffHouse at theherbalinfuser.com on my favorite herbal infuser machine. Now here's what you're going to need to make the cocktails. You're going to need 1 pint of vodka, a 1/4 cup of an infused alcohol tincture. We'll show you how to make that. A watermelon, a cup of sugar, a cup of water, 1/2 cup of fresh basil, 1/2 cup of fresh mint, some lemon slices, and some tools you'll need is a blender or a smoothie maker. Now, for preparation, you're going to need to make a tincture. Now, you can use the Mighty Fast Herbal Infuser to make your tincture, or you can use any of the methods that we've shown you before. But either way, be sure that you decarb your herbs for 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 minutes. The herbal infuser, you can make a tincture in about 4 hours, which is the quickest method I know. But we have other methods that you could use, and I'll put some links in the description for some of the slower, more traditional methods. For using the herbal infuser, you use the Mighty Long Cycle and 151 proof or less alcohol. And then 4 hours later, you have a tincture that you're ready to roll with. But it'd be better if you do this in advance and have the tincture made before you try to start the recipe, because that can take a couple of days already. But assuming you have your tincture, we're going to go ahead and start the recipe. The first thing we're going to do is to infuse the watermelon. And to do this, I'm going to take the pint of vodka, and I'm going to pour off about a 1/4 cup. And then I'm going to replace that with the infused tincture alcohol. And that way I'm diluting it down, so it's mostly vodka, but it's also infused. Because I don't want to just pour straight tincture into the watermelon. It'll ruin the taste as well as be way too strong. You'll see that I'm using a 1/5 instead of a pint that I have in the recipe, but I found out that only about half of it went into the watermelon, so a pint would be the appropriate amount to get it to go all the way into the watermelon. But you see, I've traced around the bottle in the top of the watermelon, and I used the knife to cut out the hole. And then this is the important part where you lean the watermelon over so that you can get the bottle into it without spilling it out, and then you tilt it up. You might have a little bit run out, but that's going to keep you from spilling out your tincture. And then you'll want to place it inside of a large pan or something to keep it from dripping or running in case anything happens. And then you're going to let it sit. And for like 12 to 24 hours, this will infuse. And it'll just slowly kind of drip and run down into the watermelon. And you just keep it at room temperature while it's infusing. And there are some other methods that you could use to do this as well. You could just chop up the watermelon and soak it in a bag. There's some other methods you can do. We're just kind of using the old school method of making the infused drunk watermelon. And you can see if everything doesn't go in there, or if you just want to use this method too, you could just cut a hole and then pour as much of the vodka and the tincture in there as it'll fit. And then you wait a few minutes and it'll go down some. And then you can just keep doing that over and over. And that's another way to also get the vodka-infused herbs and all into the watermelon and infuse it. But once you have it infused, it's going to be time to move on to the next step, which is to prep up the watermelon. What we're going to do now is go ahead and chop it into little pieces and de-seed it. So you can see there, it's kind of big chunks, and we're going to freeze this. So what we want to do is take the seeds out now because we're going to be making smoothies with it. It's just a lot easier to do it then. And if you do this over a clean juice pan, you could recycle the juice that's falling into the pan there if you use a new pan. But either way, once you have it chunked up, you're going to freeze that until it's hard. And I would recommend fully overnight. And if you had a deep freeze, it would be even better because the more hard frozen we can get it, the better it is. This is our 4th of July recipe. It's bright and sunny out. I'm going to recommend for this to use fresh herbs. We're using some fresh, this is cinnamon basil, but any kind of basil will work, sweet basil. Lemon basil would even be okay. But use fresh herbs if you can get those, and you can find those at your local grocery store if you don't have them or a neighbor that has some. And you're also going to need some mint, so I'm also gathering some sprigs of sweet mint as well. So for this part of the recipe, we're going to make our simple syrup. And this is going to be an herb-infused simple syrup. And this is going to give our watermelon smoothie its flavor. So we're making a simple syrup with 1 cup of water and then 1 cup of sugar. And now we're going to separate the mint and the basil from its stems. And overall, you want about a loosely packed cup of the 2 herbs. And we're going to make our simple syrup by bringing the water up to it starts to dissolve the sugar in there. You know it's fully dissolved when your water is clear again instead of cloudy. And at that point, we're going to keep bringing up the heat to boil, but we're going to start adding in our herbs. And you're just going to put all the herbs right in top and use a spoon to just stir them around a little bit and get them soaked into water and sugar. And then bring that up to a boil. And when it starts boiling, you can take that off the heat. We're going to be sort of basically making a tea here, so take it off of the heat when it starts to boil. And to keep it from getting too bitter or too hot, just take it off the heat and put it on the counter, and then put a lid on it and let it steep for about 8 to 10 minutes. And after that, you'll see that it hasn't gotten too green. You haven't taken much of the chlorophyll out of there, but you've had enough time to get the oils, the essential oils of that mint and basil into the simple syrup. And this tastes and smells so good, you wouldn't believe it. So whether you're going to make these cocktails or not, you just might want to try this little simple syrup. You could put it into tea. It would be great into green tea, or make it other kind of smoothies with it, whether or not it's infused or not. So that's just a little bonus recipe there with the herb-infused simple syrup. So I've made enough here to do about a whole watermelon, but if you don't want to use the whole watermelon for this, you can store that up in a jar and use it over a couple of 2 or 3 weeks. And now everything's coming together and it's time to finally make our smoothies. You can see the watermelon is frozen hard as a rock. It's in chunks. We've got ice crystals forming on the outside of it there. And then we also have our infused, or the herb-infused simple syrup then. And I'm using a smoothie machine, this little Ninja smoothie machine. You just want to go ahead and fill up your hopper to the fill line with just this watermelon, that's it. And there's 2 simple ingredients here. We're going to use the simple syrup and the watermelon. So I've started with about a 1/4 cup, and then I chopped it to see how thick it would get. And it was actually kind of a little too thick. So you can just then add in a tablespoon at a time until it gets the consistency that you want. If you make it too runny, it'll be a little bit really sweet and the herbal flavor will be too strong. So you want to make it just thick enough where it's a nice, like thick, frosty consistency. And then you can scoop it into your dish. And you can enjoy this any day. This is such a refreshing drink, but it does have alcohol, so be careful and keep in mind it's infused and alcohol. So you're not going to want to operate any heavy machinery for sure or drive anything after having some of these. But it's a really refreshing way to spend a hot afternoon in mid-July. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe for the watermelon smoothies. This recipe was brought to you by the Mighty Fast Herbal Infuser. You can save money on my favorite herbal infuser device with the code RuffHouse at theherbalinfuser.com. If you enjoyed this recipe, please be sure to hit the like button and visit RuffHouseStudios.com for hundreds of cannabis culture videos made just for you. This is Matt for RuffHouse Studios. Thank you for watching.